Hi guys, Andy N, Spoken Label, back in the house on a Tuesday evening, up to Scotland today. And I've got a lovely lady with me today. Kudos to Thin Hall for this one, because this has been in the works for a while, this one, Kelly, hasn't it? And that's why we both love Finn, so that's why. Now, Kelly, obviously, I'm going to let you introduce yourself and tell people, obviously, first of all, then, who you are, where you're from originally. Are you born and bred in the same area, are you, or have you moved around a bit to where you live?
I was born into this area in Scotland, but I actually grew up in Tenerife. I've had quite a
wow.
I've had quite a different life from the average person, I think. But my name's Kelly Buchan. I'm a tarot reader and astrologer from the northeast of Scotland who I kind of use poetry as spiritual transmutation. I think poetry and writing is one of the best therapies that you can actually have. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing to bare your soul quite so much. But I found that if I try and write things that aren't from a specific personal experience, it just doesn't feel good. And I almost feel embarrassed about writing about things that aren't from my perspective and from my emotional experiences. You know, in our poetry circles, there's so many amazing poets who write about global issues, war, and I'm almost embarrassed coming on with my wee moon poems, but yeah.
I wouldn't expect anything less of you, Kelly. So now, obviously, where did your creativity come from originally then?
I've always been a writer, really, ever since I was tiny. I've got books and books and books full of notes of really embarrassing ramblings at this point.
Oh, you've not seen what I'm like, Kelly, because I started when I was 10, and I've got those original poems still in an A5 hardback book, and I've done 60 of them now so far, and I'm 50, so you know, it's you something similar. You've always been scribbling, haven't you, since you were a wee nipper, as you say, don't you, in Scotland?
Yeah, and it's so nice. And you know, every now and again, if I've got a wee bit of writer's block, I can go into these notebooks and steal a line here or there, and then craft more poetry out of it. So it's nice. But I wouldn't show anyone those notebooks, Andy. I'm sure you wouldn't either. You know, those are private.
Not some of my very early stuff, I can tell you that now. The poems when I wrote when I was 10 and 11 are staying there. Nobody's ever seeing them, so it's best not to, definitely, with that. So now, I know obviously when I got first talk to you, you recently done a tarot card reading for me. So did your love of tarot and astronomy come from a very early age as well, or did that come later?
That's a complicated question. My mum's a tarot reader. So I actually grew up in that kind of realm, and I used to, as a wee kid, I'd sit and watch my mum blow people's heads off. But I would always say to her, you know, Mum, how does it work? And she was very Scottish about the whole thing, Andy, like, I don't know, it just works. But so later on in life, I'd always had a deck of tarot cards, and I kind of learned the meanings. But it wasn't until I had my children. I actually used to work in oil and gas, believe it or not. I was quite a corporate person.
Oh, wow. And that doesn't surprise me knowing you, that one, at all, to be honest with you. You're that sort of person, I can imagine it, just changing directions altogether like that. So was that when you had your children, did your perspective change on the corporate side, did it?
Yeah, I got offered to go back offshore once I'd had my wee lassie, but I couldn't imagine sitting in an oil rig in the middle of the North Sea wondering if my daughter was crying, you know. So I kind of took a couple of years off and worked in sweet shops and stuff.
Oh, yay!
Yeah,
place I'm not allowed to go in, but yeah.
Pardon?
I'm not allowed in sweet shops because perks have been diabetic, right? But still,
no, nightmare! I'd probably diabetic after working there. But it wasn't until lockdown hit. It's a strange wee synchronistic story. But when lockdown hit, I obviously just started reading, and I really love reading people's blogs and stuff. And I found a writer, and I'd never seen anyone write like that. It's a guy called Shane Levine. He's from London, and the honesty just poured out of the words. I felt like I was literally inside his head with a blanket around me and a wee torch reading his thoughts. So I read everything he'd ever written, and then I contacted him just to say, like, man, like, I'm a sort of, you know, I'd love to be a poet, and I think your work is just the most honest thing it was gritty, and, you know, I'll send you some of his stuff, it's really good.
Yeah, please do, please do. I always love people reading real people's work, definitely as well.
Yeah, and he was like, oh, let me read your stuff. And he read he was like the first person I ever showed my poetry, this like really well-established poet. And he says, you need to do this as a job. He says, stop what you're doing and start writing properly. And we're still in touch to this day, and I'm still writing away. So it was really, really nice. It was a chance thing, you know?
Oh, that's luck. It's everything you say with that song is luck of the draw. Sometimes it is, because like my story is, and I don't want you to help. I've always told about myself. This help you understand me more, because people can relate to you. Then was I started writing when I was 10, but I didn't take it seriously. I went to university when I was 28. Then I drifted for a few years after uni. Then I joined a writing group in 2005, I believe it was, when I was 34. And then it's been like explosion ever since. So you just sometimes it's luck of the draw, innit? And before you know it, you'll be carrying on and on basically. That's why. So how was your writing changed then over since that period? Because you had that kind of explosion, didn't you, really, over lockdown?
At the time I was going through a divorce, so I think my poetry then, I read it back and it was really angry and sort of without any structure, you know. I was just kind of pouring it all out into something that I could see, so it wasn't inside anymore. And since then, I really do, I'm the kind of person who, when I'm going through extreme experiences, that's when the downloads start. You know, I go into certain consciousness vibrations and I start being able to try and write what it is that I'm feeling and seeing. And one of the biggest compliments I get about my poetry is people will read some of my stuff and say, I didn't even know there were words to that emotion. So that is where I've kind of tried to sort of laser focus and put words to these emotions that people don't even know how to vocabularize. And I think that's my wee niche. Yeah,
no, definitely. I've seen you read a good half a dozen times, Kelly. I agree with you completely there. You're right. When you're letting, I think the word is shooting from the hip, if you know what I mean. Really, you're letting all your emotions just go straight for it. And it does it works really well for your pieces straight away when that does so. That why not. How did you meet our mutual friend Finn Hall then?
That was by chance as well. Someone tagged me. Yeah, someone tagged me in one of his posts. And I just messaged him. I was like, oh, I'll just message him and see if he's interested in my stuff. And I sent him a couple of pieces and he was like, oh, come on to one of the open mic nights on Zoom. And we're really good friends now. He's coming round for soup on Sunday. Him and his wife June, like, they're literally my favourite people. And like a big shout out to Finn, because without him and his encouragement, my career wouldn't be where it's at just now. It's as simple as that. And another wee shout out. Sorry,
so go on, ladies first. Go on, we can do second shout out.
Just a wee shout out to Richard Spizak. He's a poet in America, and he's been a real guiding light to me spiritually and in my writing. So a wee shout out to Richard as well.
Yeah, I've spoke to Richard a few times. A lovely guy, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely. I do like his work as well. So brilliant with that. Does Finn live quite near you then? Does he? Or
about 20 minutes, yeah.
Oh, does it? Oh, it's not bad then, is it? So that's why. I know I've seen pictures of you of the same reading with him. I wasn't sure if you lived how far apart you lived. Oh, brilliant! I believe that. So, no, great. Now tell us a bit more about your tarot card reading then, and your astronomy readings, because I know there's nothing high this. You did a reading for me last week, and it was like it took me ages to listen to it because I'm that busy, and like you sent me quite a lengthy WhatsApp thing on it. So tell us about that then, because I want people to know, because I think it shows a different side to you as a person, as Kelly. I think your poetry and your tarot and astronomy are all linked together. Because, like, it's like, how does it feel for you doing a reading for somebody you've not even met before, like that?
I love it. I love it so much. Well, the type of astrology that I practice, I'm just going to grab a tarot deck and I'm going to show you.
Brilliant.
But the type of astrology that I practice is Vedic Astrology. That's the type of astrology that they use in India, and it's very different from the Western astrological practices that you see here. As a tarot reader, the first time I got my Western birth chart done, I was so underwhelmed. It didn't resonate. I felt as though it was really shallow and sort of, I don't know, it just didn't sit well with me at all. And then a couple of years later, I met a Vedic astrologer who blew my mind as soon as he looked at my birth chart, and I knew that was what I needed to focus on, that type of astrology, you know?
Yeah. Now, I was going to ask you then, obviously, I said can you explain the differences then to us after that? Because obviously, you obviously know much more than I do, definitely. So what is the differences between these two types then?
Well, in Western astrology, you're looking at the solar progression. So you're looking at how the sun travels around the zodiac. But in Western astrology, they haven't taken into account that every 72 years, the backdrop of stars behind the zodiac drops by 1 degree. Now, Vedic astrology takes that in mind. And even if you get a star map app out on your phone and point it, it's using sidereal placements. And that is this type of astrology, sidereal astrology. But we're looking at the moon's progression around 28 fixed stars called nakshatras, which hang in the zodiac. And you're looking at the progression of the moon through there. So it's very different how the charts are casted. And also in Vedic astrology, the mythologies run so much deeper, and it's just a much richer culture. And it's a lot more to sink your teeth into as an astrologer. So yeah, that's how I sort of settled on that one.
Brilliant, that explains why. And so how has your approach changed on this over time? Because obviously when you first got going into it, you obviously look at it in a very different way to what you would now then, haven't you? So is a lot of it been like trial and error to find almost like the pack of cards that suit you, don't they? So I've always been told that, because it's like I always treat. I know somebody else that does it. Actually, I've not told you about. And I remember her telling me at the time, she went for about 100 packs of cards until she found the pack that actually suited her. And it's like me when I go writing. I have pens I go back to all the time, because it's something that you pick up and you know almost immediately, don't you? So
yeah. Well, I'll show you my favourite tarot deck.
Oh, please do. Now, obviously, I apologise to anybody who just listens to an audio. You have to put up with, believe me, I say it's very good.
Yeah, but you should go and Google this, because it's really cool. But do you know the director Guillermo del Toro?
Yes, I do. I love his films.
Pan's Labyrinth is my favourite film. Right?
That is one of the best of the films I've ever seen. It's one of the disturbing films as well.
Yeah, it's a bit wild. Well, I'll show you. Let me find the Hermit. I should have looked this out beforehand. But these are Tarot del Toro. So this isn't the Hermit, but they're Guillermo del Toro Tarot.
Oh, wow.
And they're just amazing. I would recommend them for beginners. But look at the Fool.
Oh, my good God. Yeah, that's was it the Foul that is it? You showed that card is showing it. Your finger was over it, and
the Fool. So this is the very first card of the Major Arcana. Yeah.
Brilliant. It's incredible artwork, that is. Yeah.
Beautiful. They are difficult to read with. I wouldn't recommend, because there's no symbolism on the suits. So you need to know your stuff as a tarot reader to be able to read with them. But yeah.
No, brilliant. Check it out. Definitely that now. Tell us about then, obviously, how you do your readings then for people. Because like I said, it was like, when you did mine, you were send them over to me on about 8 different WhatsApp voicemail messages. It's like when you're doing is that the sort of thing you would normally do for people that way? Or do you like doing them in person more? Do you normally do readings?
I love doing in-person readings. I think people get a lot more out of it, because as I was saying to you through your voice note reading, I wish I could show you what I'm looking at in the charts to come to this sort of conclusion. But I do in-person readings, and I also do tarot readings without the astrology. I'm not actually qualified to do full astrology yet, and that's why I do a combination of looking at this incarnation's birth chart, looking at where the planets are going to be headed in the next year, and then incorporating that into the tarot and tying it all together. I'm not sure if you've heard the saying in witchcraft, as above, so below.
No, I've not. There's lots I don't know.
So below, as within, so without. And it really is a beautiful example of the energies that we see playing out in the heavens, and the planetary transitions through the zodiac are a direct reflection onto a tarot reading. So when I'm looking at someone's tarot cards and I've got their birth chart next to me, I can make so much more sense out of it, because each of these cards actually correlates to either a planet or a zodiac sign. And the tarot, what the tarot is, Andy, is just a catalogue of human experience. So each of these cards denotes an emotion or an experience that we can go through as humans. And it's separated out into alchemy. So you're looking at the elements, and you're also looking at numerology. So, regular, I say that really, I don't mean to say that, but, a lot of tarot readers that I've seen will just pull one basic layer of energy. And I think that's such a waste, because you can grab other decks and start pulling on the pockets of energy that you've got out to create like a sort of energetic map as to what's really going on, and just dive a bit deeper into people's cards. So yeah, I love doing in-person readings, but I've got clients all over the world really, and I also do like live card pools on my Facebook page as well. So that's wow. Fun. Yeah, you'll
Yeah,
have
it
to
is
come
complete.
on. You'll have to
Oh
come
yeah,
on.
send me the link over definitely. Oh yeah, I'd love to have a look at that, and I'll get the boss to come along and watch it with me as well because I know she's interested, right? Now, obviously,
Definitely.
no, the mutual friend of mine, obviously, Amanda's, I'm going to put you in contact with. I know she uses tarot cards writing poetry as well. Is that
Right.
something do you do a similar approach yourself and do you all that or use your cards, your
No,
character?
no.
Oh,
I have, one of my books I'm planning on taking out is Poems of the Taro. But I find, as I said before, I find it really, really difficult to write about things that I don't have complete direct experience with. So, trying to sort of meditate on the archetype of a card and then come up with a poem, it doesn't work with me as a system. I'd love to be able to do that, but it just doesn't work. So what I'm planning on doing is, building my body of work to eventually, in maybe 5 or 6 years' time, have a poetry book with the archetypes of tarot in a natural poetry sort of way. I don't really want to force it. I'll try and get another couple of books out first before I do Poems of the Tarot.
oh yeah, no, completely. No, it's the best way. Like I think when you get that first book out, it's like you're flying after that. Because I've done 6 books now in 12 years now. So, and I've got my 7th one nearly ready, and the 8th one will be out next year. So, but you need to get this how you make your statement on that first book, isn't it? So, like, do you envisage bringing your first book out reasonably soon, or you're not quite sure yet?
No, astrologically, I would like to have it out by January 2023. My book's going to be called The Inner Shore. And it's really, I've got the vision of what it's going to look like in my head, but astrologically, it would be very auspicious for me to bring it out in January 2023. So that's what I'm aiming for.
Well, fingers crossed, you definitely, Kelly, with that then. So how far into the book are you then at the moment then, or have you?
I've got about 40 poems and 3 short stories, so I don't think I'm too far away. I'm not sure whether to approach publishers or go into self-publishing quite yet. But once I've got everything in front of me, I'm just sort of compiling everything at the moment on my laptop. I'm very scattered and I'm not organised at all.
Oh, I know that by now. I know I've been chatting to you. I kind of guessed that.
Just a Looney Tune, really. So I'm trying to get everything organised, but I've got a good feeling that I'll get it out at the beginning of the year.
Brilliant. What's made you want to put a mixture of poetry and short stories in it then?
I'm not really sure. I used to have a blog.
Oh yeah.
I used to have a blog that I would put a lot of posts up on. And really, it's, the short stories that I'm putting in, I've kind of adapted so they feel a little bit less personal to the reader. Or if someone who knew me was reading it, they wouldn't immediately know what it was about, But I think those are the ones that I immediately, when I got my blog post up and running, those are the ones that people commented on most. And they kind of, they hold a soft spot for me because they kind of got me going with the poetry thing. So yeah, I really want to include them.
No, that makes sense. I'm just curious what led you to that direction then. And I said, no, brilliant. Well, good luck with Kelly, definitely with that. So what we're going to do is we'll wrap up this bit now anyway, and we'll let you know, obviously, to conclude the part 1. If people want to find out more about you, where do you recommend they go, first of all?
On my Facebook, it's Kelly Buchan. I've got a business page called The Witchcrafters Toro. And I'm also on Instagram at the_witchcrafter. You can find me on there.
Brilliant. Well, good luck with it, Kelly. Definitely. So good luck with the book. Definitely keep us informed. So right.
Definitely. I'll send you a copy.
Oh, I'd love to. We'll do some book swapping when you're ready. Definitely. Right. I'll send you some nice flowery poetry over, and you can send me some metaphysical stuff over then. That's why.
All the confusing stuff.
Oh, we'll confuse each other completely. So, right, guys and girls, hang around. I love Kelly's work. So, we'll see you all.